Of poems today, mostly inspired by photographs. The first one was a photograph of fishing boats. From before the dawn, I sat on the dock and watched the fishing boats leave. Deckhands busied themselves in tasks I could not fathom, lifted anchors and were gone. When the last of them had slipped away into the rising sun, I stood and turned and walked once more inland to find a cafe to eat a solitary and contemplative repast. In the afternoon I returned to my spot and sat and watched as through the sunset hours, one by one, the boats returned, slow and sluggish, laden with fish, followed by gulls. The deckhands applied themselves to new tasks, as unfamiliar to me as their morning work, and when the boats lay silent once again, I sought supper instead of breakfast after my day's idleness. And the next one is also about boats, sort of. It was inspired by a photograph of luggage waiting to be loaded onto the Titanic. It's called Waiting for the Ship to Sail. The teddy bear in the stained sepia photograph is thin and threadbare. He wears a bow tie. He sits on a trunk. His little boy or little girl is absent, occupied elsewhere, boarding the ship that he will later join. The tag tied to his foot promises they will be reunited, but they will not. The next poem, it's kind of a silly thing. It's inspired by the fact that I used to be a mathematician. That was my university subject, maths. It's called Maths Facts. The number of seconds from birth until death. The average time you take drawing a breath. The shapes of your world in both 2 and 3D. The sum of the series of all you can be. Differentiate separate parts of the strife, integrate them together, creating your life. On the X and Y axes, you consider the plot of your Boolean values with and, or, and not. Your waking and sleeping draw up on a chart, plot the infinite functions of breaking your heart. And when it's all proven, you can add QED, where they've already carved a fine RIP. The next one was from a photograph of those big white electricity generating wind power windmills. The objectors say, take them away, we want our green fields back. But they look to me like metal trees as I walk down the track. In passing by, beholder's eye, I murmur with a smile. I'd watch for hours these turning towers that others so revile. I've written a fair number of poems over the years about sunsets, and this is another one. Another thousand sunsets. Another thousand sunsets like the thousand gone before. When the last one's over, there will start 1,000 more. Sunsets in the mountains, in the deserts, in the town. Sunsets on the ocean where it seems the sun might drown. I've seen them over forest, I've seen them over field. Watch the ruby painted sky that the twilight has revealed. I've seen them when I'm sober, I've seen them when I'm drunk. I've seen them in high spirits and when my heart has sunk. I've seen them when I'm lonely, I've seen them by love's light. I've seen the dying of the day and the fires it can ignite. And every time I watch again as the darkness starts to fall, I remember every one of them, I can recall them all. There'll be another 1,000 sunsets, I know that this is true. But the best thing about sunsets is that sunrise will come too. The next one, it's partly inspired by a photograph of some keys on a ring, but it's also partly inspired by my dad, who was one of those people who would never throw anything away. You never know when you might need it, was kind of his creed. It's not entirely accurate, but it's close enough. It's called Keys at the Bottom of the Drawer. Keys on iron rings, keys on threaded strings, at the bottom of the drawer. Keys shining as if new, keys almost rusted through, keys falling to the floor. Keys to start a car, keys to a minibar and a Tantalus inside, keys to shed and gate, keys for a roller skate and 100 more beside. Barrel keys and Yale, keys that might be for a jail, keys to start a boat, keys for a clockwork train and for the cover on the drain, keys for locking up a goat, for windows and for doors, keys to open bureau drawers, keys giant and keys small, keys for tiny locks, keys for an empty box. Why did we keep them all? The truth is, of course, that I not only don't know why, but don't know what they're for. Could be, for all I see, a belt for chastity. But there are truly keys galore. And if I ever say, let's throw them all away, the answer is, let's not. You just don't know that they won't be needed some fine day, so we'd better keep the lot. That's it. That's the next set of poems. More next time.